Hello, you're watching Breakfast with Nagamon Chetty and Charlie State.
Good morning to you. It's just after 8:30. We'll return to the budget, the big story of the day. Businesses have warned that tax hikes offer nothing but pain and will leave employers with less cash to give pay rises and create new jobs.
So Ben's in Leeds for us this morning in a beautiful setting there, Ben. I know you've had the chance to have a chat with a few people and get some thoughts, and you're having a little look around at the same time.
Yes, I've popped into one of the shops in here because the budget is all about businesses just like this one. And Lucy was watching the budget with great interest. What was your take on it as an individual and a business owner?
So ultimately it will affect us as a business, but we are a living wage employer, so we really believe in paying that to our employees. And obviously with the increase in minimum wage, it's obviously a great thing for our business employees as a whole. So and keeping culture alive and happy is obviously really important to us. So that's
okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. Now, let me explain why we're here. This is the Leeds Corn Exchange. It's a rather stunning venue. It's one that is rich in economic and trading history. In the mid-1800s, it was a place where they used to trade corn, grain. Now it's full of dozens of independent shops and small businesses. But let's just run through some of the key points. We'll be speaking to some of the people gathered here in a moment, but first I want to run through some of the key points in the budget because the Chancellor unveiled those £40 billion worth of tax rises and spending cuts, she says, to rebuild public services and stabilise the public finances. Businesses will bear much of the burden of that, with £25 billion in tax rises through an increase in their national insurance contributions as employers. Some have said it'll make it harder for them to invest, to grow, to hire and create jobs. There were some other notable measures, a change to the way carers' allowance can be claimed. It's gone up. The amount that someone can earn and still get that allowance has gone up from £151 a week to £181 a week, which should mean around 60,000 more carers will benefit from that change. The freeze on fuel duty was expected to have been scrapped. That has been maintained. That 5p a litre cut for petrol and diesel has been extended for at least another year. As I say, in a moment, we'll be getting perspectives from the people, businesses and students gathered here with us this morning. But first, I gathered some immediate reaction to the budget in Pudsey, the Chancellor's constituency. 200 miles north, a big day at Westminster being watched on a big screen in the Chancellor's own constituency. So what did people in Pudsey think of the budget?
Not a socialist budget. It felt like a Treasury budget, and a lot of it was just figures, and I know it has to be done, but I've been waiting a long time for a Labour budget to really make a difference, and I think a lot of the things should have been said weren't said.
I thought it was very clever. I thought she'd tried to use all the manoeuvre she had to shift the balance of spending, which I think is one of the things I was looking for.
They may, unfortunately, be further demonising benefit claimants by placing an emphasis on fraud, and I was quite disappointed to see that.
Rachel Reeves wants the economy to grow. That means businesses like this one in Bradford expanding and taking on more staff, for example. But like many, it's now facing higher national insurance payments as an employer and an above-inflation rise in the national living and minimum wage.
We will have incurred another £500,000 in expenses. That's a very considerable hit. It's really not what we've budgeted for, so we have to go back and plan again. We were looking at employing up to 300 extra members of staff. We're going to have to revise that, maybe 280, maybe introduce technology, maybe do things differently.
But with a big fuel bill, they are relieved that fuel duty remains frozen for at least another year. And the smallest businesses, with up to 4 employees, will get more support, worth up to £10,500 off their employers' national insurance contributions. The rise in minimum wages will put pressure on businesses like this nursery in Huddersfield, but it does mean a pay boost for millions of workers.
I'm really pleased because the minimum wage is going up, and that means I can continue to work part-time, which is really important to me because I want to maintain a really good work-life balance, to be present at home for my child herself whilst looking after everyone else's all day, and I still want to be able to give her those different experiences that I can give her outside of an educational setting.
The nursery's now working out whether it will need to put up its fees, and that's a worry for working families like Stephanie's.
With 2 young children, both in nursery, even though I'm only working part-time, our childcare bill is more than our mortgage every month.
But if Stephanie takes on more hours at work, she'll be caught by the existing freeze on tax thresholds, meaning she'll pay a higher rate of tax. That freeze is not being extended, but it won't be lifted until 2028. So let's get some reaction here in Leeds this morning. We've got Shauna, who's a student at the University of Leeds. What did you make of what you heard in the budget?
Well, I thought it was really good to see an increase in minimum wage in the budget, but I think that I would like to know from the Chancellor whether they have stronger plans to actually enforce these minimum wage increases, because as a student we're forced a lot of the time into jobs that don't actually pay a minimum wage because it's easier for the employers. So I would like to see if they actually have plans to enforce it on a wide scale. OK, really good point there. Thank you for sharing that with us. Also watching the budget, Tracy Brabin, the Mayor of West Yorkshire. Was it a budget that will benefit the people you represent?
Well, absolutely. And as you heard from Shona, minimum wage is really important, and 40,000 people in West Yorkshire are going to benefit from an uplift in their pay packet. But also, what a blockbuster of a budget, and support for more housing, better transport, help with the NHS. 100,000 people in West Yorkshire economically inactive because they're not well, getting those back into work. I was really impressed. And let's not forget, very quickly, that this was a budget with mayors at the helm, shoulder to shoulder with government, so we're going to help with growth.
There'll be people watching in West Yorkshire and elsewhere saying, I need that pay rise in the minimum wage to afford the higher bus fares now. I'm not really going to be much better off on balance.
Well, I know that travelling is really important to get around West Yorkshire, to get to jobs and to skills. That's why over a couple of years ago we brought in the Mayor's Fare, the £2 fare, that then went nationwide. So I'm looking at what we can do. We're on the franchising journey. What can we do to make it a little bit cheaper so people can get about?
OK, Tracy, thank you very much. I'm going to leave Tracy to her, what is probably the healthiest breakfast, the healthiest breakfast on the table this morning. I'll tell you what I'm drawn to is these rather delicious-looking custard pastries over here. That's not the only reason I've come to this table, because Chris, an economist, is here with us as well. Rachel Reeves admitted on this programme within the last hour that workers may see smaller pay rises because of the decision she's made on increasing employers' national insurance contributions. Is that going to be the effect, you think, for people watching at home?
Well, no doubt this will have an impact on working people, even though it is kind of a tax on business. I actually disagree that it will mostly come through wages. I mean, it's still a very tight labour market. A lot of businesses are still struggling to find the right people or to keep hold of the right people. So they still need to be competitive with the wages that they offer. I think it's more likely that the impact comes through price increases, and possibly some businesses will decide to actually lower their hiring decisions as well. But overall, it's still, businesses will still bear the brunt of some of that increase. So it's still more worthwhile to put that increase onto businesses as opposed to directly to employers through national insurance. But I think, that was the main trick from this Halloween budget. The main treat actually came in the form of all of the infrastructure spending that was announced. And that won't really impact the average person for a number of years. But what it does do is open up local labour markets and really support regions across the UK. OK,
Chris, thank you very much for that overview. I'll leave Chris to the pastries, or I will come back for one of them, and come to this table here where Sarah from the British Business Excellence Awards is waiting. Was there anything in it for the businesses that you speak to day in, day out?
I would say for very low turnover businesses, small businesses, there was a few quick wins, but for the backbone of this country, small to medium-sized enterprises, unfortunately, they will be approaching this budget with a level of pessimism and concern. There's a very real day-to-day aspect of ensuring that you can make payroll and that you can pay all of these taxes that are put upon you, and unfortunately, I think a lot of businesses will make some very difficult hiring decisions in the next year. OK, really good to get that perspective. The economy relies on people going out and spending. Naga and Charlie, you may have seen me in the little gift shop earlier. Picked up a couple of key rings, one for each of you. I'll let you decide which one goes to who. Thank God I'm fabulous, or it's OK if you don't like me. Not everyone has good taste. You can fight over those two.
I'm the one on the right, and the one on the left is definitely you, Charlie. The consensus is in agreement. Thanks, Ben. It's lovely of you to think of us.
Do my best to keep the tone serious as we carry on discussing the budget. Thank you very much, Ben. Looking at lots of reaction. Ben talking to a lot of people there. That's one of the things, isn't it? How does it affect you at home? We're also hearing from politicians this morning. Sir Ed Davey, who's the leader of the Liberal Democrats, joins us now.